Morning, when Toni Tucker unlocks the grand wooden doors of Ewing Manor, she pauses to take in the scene around her, illuminating from the early morning light, and she breaks the silence. It takes a stroll up a curvy trail through wooded terrain to reach, isolated from the surrounding area and breaking away from the hustle and commotion in the city. She arrives before anyone else and leaves after they've all gone. Yet, in this tucked-away hidden gem, she doesn't feel alone, and she knows she's not talking to herself when she says, "Good morning, Hazel," before officially starting her workday. She's talking to the last decade of her own life, and to the dead woman whose spirit she feels undoubtedly still lingers, the original patron of the manor, core of Tucker's proudest achievements, and principal driving focus behind her work, Hazel Buck Ewing. Tucker aided in shaping the story attached to that name into a legacy to be preserved and shared. For 13 years, Tucker has worked as the director of the Ewing Cultural Center and as Illinois State University facilities manager. She oversees and manages each structure and all events for the center, plus 4 separate facilities as foundation manager. But her role has never just been about managing and directing, rather about meaning, community, and connection. She said,
"Volunteers we have they're all amazing people. They're retired school teachers, retired attorneys. Be here. They don't have to be, but our volunteers give hours and hours for tours and working in the archives because they want to be here."
At the end of this year, she will officially retire. Her time here has intertwined her story with Hazel's and created both an undeniable connection and legacy. The work is varying and only uniform in recent years. Tucker said,
"SU Alumni Center, there's staff there that book the events, and I just manage the facility as a facilities manager. But here at Ewing Manor, I work with all our clients, do contracts for all of our events, and we have weddings, baby showers, bridal showers, cocktail receptions, fundraisers for local charities."
The center is made up of the Genevieve Green Gardens, the theater at Ewing, and the 1928 historic manor. The gardens offer a whimsical view of attractions that loop around grand architecture, elegant walkways and greenery, paths and seating strewn all throughout, and eye-catching features to spot. Weather permitting, they remain open and free to the public. The gardens and grounds fill with local high school students taking dance photos. Families come and walk to learn and bond. On Arbor Day, the center works with preschools that plant trees, and they host various classes for ISU and community high school students. It's a learning laboratory for horticulture classes, where classes are held in rooms in the manor, then go out on the grounds to identify things like which type of insects or plants are harmful. The Illinois Shakespeare Festival has been held in the theater at Ewing on the north part of the property since the center first opened. Hazel and her husband at the time, Davis, were 2 founders of Community Plays. When they first started, they didn't have a facility, so they would have their plays in the courtyard, and now they have their own building plus their original courtyard playbills. Volunteer Dawsons lead worthwhile tours through the manor rooms, overviewing the history and local ties, providing in-depth, informative, and enjoyable details that offer past and present connections, using visuals and examples from multiple perspectives. Alongside debuting the life and history of Hazel, the tour continuously details the contributions of both community volunteers and Tucker's work alike. Guides point out the laborious efforts and note the amount of progress, from the visible and tangible to the unnoticed and unsensible, highlighting the immense precision and importance in keeping Hazel's original vision alive within the manor and attributing it in praise. After its donation, the ISU Foundation established the Ewing Cultural Center to serve as a public venue and living laboratory for students and visitors under the distinct instruction left in Hazel's will that specifically required her manor become, in her own words, a center for intercultural understanding. The namesake for the center and Ewing Manor officially rebranded from Sunset Hill, which is what Hazel called it, to what it now stands as, to represent the life of Hazel and to honor her wish for her home, land, and story, to be part of and for the community. It serves not only as a preservation of local history, but also as a vibrant social gathering spot, ensuring its legacy for generations to come. Hazel graduated from the University of Chicago with a bachelor's in philosophy in 1902, a time when it was rare for women to do so. She married Davis Ewing in 1907. As newlyweds, they embarked on a year-long trip around the world. This trip inspired the pair's architectural desires that were used to create Ewing Manor in its castle-esque glory. It reinforced Hazel's desire to be philanthropic and awakened a passion inside her for equality-driven acts and practices within and around the Bloomington community. Tucker stresses that this is a place of community pride, both then and now. It's for the people, for the public, that's who run it, and that's who they aim to service and aid. She likes to remind visitors that Hazel was a woman ahead of her time, a suffragist who marched for women's right to vote, and a civic leader who believed in and encouraged art, education, and community engagement. The connection between Hazel's donation to ISU is distinctly unique because rather than ISU, as in the university itself, it's privately owned by the ISU Foundation. This distinction, Tucker said, was very purposeful on Hazel's part. It allows for leeway and more community opportunities and involvement.
They give us funding every year because we're owned by the ISU Foundation, not the university. She left it to the foundation because if she left it to the university, it would technically it'd be owned by the state of Illinois, who could do what they wanted with it. They could tear it down.
The ISU Foundation does provide financial support for capital improvement and garners revenue from their events and venue rentals. Some specialized events require an entry fee, but most are free for everyone. If you're able or want to give a donation towards future projects, it is welcome, encouraged, and always appreciated, but never necessary. This month, the center will have their biggest fundraiser in partnering with the David Davis Mansion for a large-scale Christmas at the Mansion's tour. The archive at the manor includes photos, letters, clothing and attire, documents, newspapers, journals, records, tangible, personal, and connectable parts of history, artifacts and personal items, information that add to the manor's history and require intensive studying, careful consideration, and proper documentation. Volunteers for the archives work hard sifting through, collecting, learning about, documenting, and organizing. Susan Blystone, a 3-year archive volunteer for the manor, on work and her own personal experience, said,
"Oh, I love it. The only problem is it's a rabbit hole. You're reading the document, you're looking at it, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is fascinating. And then you're doing more reading than you are filing, But yeah, it's like a modern-day Downton Abbey. It's
the most interesting and deepest rabbit hole that she's come across so far, Blystone said.
But as I'm filing, like, for example, Hazel's letters, I'm looking at who she wrote and the date, and then you get sucked in. It's like, wow, for example, she wrote Mussolini. Probably Hazel and her advocacy, because she was in an era where women didn't really have a voice, and she was very strong in women's rights, and anytime she saw any kind of a wrong, she would take it on, whether it was an employment issue and wages or the voting, she was a pit bull, and that is not characteristic of her day. As far as the rich family history, I don't think people have a clue. This family goes back to Jesse Fell. They have ties that are incredible to the White House, to the State House. It's just fascinating.
The center had nothing when Tucker first took on this role in 2012. No ties to begin formulating the start of a collection or any sorted records or sets of information to tell a story. Under her guidance, Ewing Manor has seen immense transformation, with hundreds of thousands of items, dozens of volunteers for different types of nonprofit work, and countless people helped and inspired. It also transformed many lives, including her own, with newfound knowledge and connection alike. Tucker started with zero information about the Ewings, and now feels like an extension of their living relatives, and has a real-life connection with both them and the original Buck Ewings. She said,
The family, at the time, there were 4 living grandchildren when I started. 2 have passed away. But they all, looking back, I had no idea I'd end up with these relationships and building an archive.
Before taking on these roles, Tucker's life was filled with books rather than bricks. Her journey at Ewing didn't start typically. Initially, she pursued careers that aligned more with her bachelor's degree in library science and background experience with teaching and education. She had the role as the director of libraries for Mennonite College of Nursing when it used to be an independent college. She came to ISU to integrate all of Mennonite's nursing collection within the Milner Library collection. Nobody there had nursing collection experience at the time, and she was offered a position. She worked multiple jobs within Milner for over a decade and ended her time as an associate dean of the library. She said,
I just came in with an open mind, and I knew nothing about the family, not a lot about history or historic homes, and I thought, this is a challenge. It's an opportunity to grow in a different area. I was very comfortable in the library science world. But I also my library science background and my teaching background when I was a teacher, I think all coming here, be able to use all those skills. I was only here a couple of months. There was a ring at the doorbell, and I went out, and it was a woman standing there, and she said to me, hello, I am Lucinda Buck Ewing, and this was my grandmother's home. Would you mind if I came in? I'm traveling from Santa Fe. So I had her come in. We walked around. I told her, how I would love to have original pieces of furniture back because we didn't have any. And she stayed a couple of hours. And when she was finished, she looked at me and said, you are the real deal. And I looked at her and she said, I think you're exactly the person we want here in our grandmother's home. So from there, because of that one encounter, the furniture started coming back. She contacted her cousins and like, hey, we need to support this and what's going on in grandmother's home. Mm-hmm. I think people have embraced this, the gardens and the manor and even the Ewing family.
So she had never imagined or planned on working in a historical home, let alone leading an initiative centered on historical preservation. But she was intrigued after she received a call from the vice president of the ISU Foundation, who encouraged and suggested Tucker to consider the position at Ewing. Extremely out of her comfort zone and a little scared, Tucker embraced the change. And because of that, she's forever preserved a family century-old legacy and forever become assimilated with it as well. But what she's the proudest of, she said,
is the relationships I've made with people. The networking, meeting the Ewing family, the Buck family, building relationships and bridges with them. I know it, when you look and you think all the restoration, the roof restoration, the entire building retuck pointed, the windows restored, those are, to me, I never dreamed I would be able to do that. And I'm proud of that my legacy is when I leave, I left Ewing Manor better than when I came. But I've made friends for a lifetime.
And she said her time with the center has given her a deep appreciation for history and influence, whereas previously it was something she would have simply studied and heedlessly absorbed. She stressed that this is a place of community pride, both then and now. It's for the people, for the public. That's who run it, and that's who they aim to serve as an aid. The work, although rewarding, has not been simple. Tucker's schedule averages from 40 to 60 hours per week. She's looking forward to sleeping in past 5:30 in the morning for the first time without having something to worry about, like a bat setting off all the sensors at 2 a.m., she said, laughing about the incident now. She's happy that she'll be able to spend more time with her family, but she's equally as excited, she said, for the future where she plans to continue contributing and learning at the center in different ways. As her retirement approaches and she finishes her final year this year, her commitment and dedication remain unwavering. Her plans, Tucker said, include personal work and volunteer work.
Sunset Hill will be 100 years old in 2028, so I want to do just a small history of this beautiful home in the community, and then on Hazel and the family.
She also plans to volunteer in the archives with Susan Blystone, who Tucker met and became good friends with while working at Milner, making it the pair's soon-to-be second experience as colleagues. The manor is just a house at the end of the day, and people are the ones who make it more. About the Ewings and the manor and Tucker's work, Blystone said,
It is a hidden gem, and Toni's done an amazing job of opening it up, so people are on the grounds, and there's tours, and so much more going on here.
Her retirement is a few cold weeks away, filled with work and bittersweet feelings. But what lies ahead, Tucker said,
I think there's a great future for the manor and the foundation having ownership of the manor and just seeing it move forward. I feel like I've done that all that I can do, but have someone follow in my footsteps to take it to the next level.
And providing encouragement to those who look to further her progress, she said,
build relationships. I mean, it's a building, even though as beautiful as it is, there's nothing. It's those relationships with donors, with volunteers, with community members. That's what supports Ewing Manor, are those relationships with people. And, without our donors or our volunteers, we wouldn't be where we are today. Do anything if I could talk to Hazel or Davis or any of these family members who were deceased by the time I came along. I think she would say, you need to learn to ride a horse better, that you're not properly sitting on that horse, because I have gone horseback riding with the family. But I think she'd also invite me in and have a cup of tea, and I think instead of me saying, tell me about you, she would turn that around and say, tell me about yourself. And
And lastly, her parting thoughts to the ISU community, Tucker said,
if you haven't been here and walked our grounds and our gardens, the community needs to come. Students need to come. When you're sitting out, if you're an ISU student here on the Fountain Walk and you open your laptop, you're on the ISU network. So we've had some faculty in the summer, they'll come and do their work out here. It's an environment that's very relaxing, and it sort of helps you to think better. You're outside, in nature, and you're able to be more creative, I think, and then feel the presence of the Ewings encouraging you along the way.
It comes off her easily, the connection she has with, as well as the passion and admiration for Hazel that Tucker exudes. The two different women from two different times come off as a unit, whose lives appear to be intertwined, a living, breathing extension of passion, work, and profound value that both women have left in this community. So it is not unusual or surprising to know that when Tucker leaves for work, before she locks the door, she will pause to say, "Good night, Hazel," to a completely empty house. Yet, you can almost feel it, can perfectly envision Hazel Buck Ewing waving her off as she trails down the spindly walkway, waiting to be greeted again in the morning. For Com 180, this is Ayana Ramratin.